Now that we've been privileged enough to understand very deeply what the spiritual nature of sleep is, and this idea of sinking below, sinking into a lower consciousness, sinking into the perspective of chavches, of koach, of a person's own yadayim, of a person's koich va'otzim yadi asli esachai lazeh, where a person begins to think that this world is just a natural world, and ultimately we're the ones that are accomplishing things. That illusion of identifying with the body as opposed to the soul, of identifying with nature as opposed to hashkacha. Now Reb Nosson explains why it is that the tikkun, the rectification for that kind of impurity that comes onto a person's yadayim, onto a person's hands, that's rectified with netilas yadayim, with water, and with the mayim that we're pouring v'sirugim, alternatively onto our fingers, onto our hands. And Reb Nosson explains first the most incredible thing, and it's such a huge hashkacha that we happen to be learning this, not happen to be, of course, but we are learning, privileged enough to be learning this right before Purim, is that Reb Nosson says, really, if you want to know the headquarters for this kind of impurity, this kind of perspective of the nighttime after the sun of God consciousness has set, that's the aspect of Amalek. He says the whole thing of Amalek is that Amalek wants to cause us to live in a world of teva, to live in a world of asher karcha b'derech, where there is nothing other than happenstance, to live in a world that's cold, to live in a world that's limited, to live in a world where we can't seem to connect to Hashem through our daily lives. See, he says, how did Moshe Rabbeinu battle Amalek? He took his yadayim, he took his hands, which usually are below a person's brain, or below a person's intellect and a person's das, which means that our functioning in this world is limited by what our brains seem capable of grasping and understanding and rationally perceiving or sensing with our five senses. And Moshe Rabbeinu takes his yadayim and he lifts them above his head, which means that he's taking this aspect of the way that we interact with the physical world, these chavches, this aspect of koach, these yud dalid yad and yud dalid yad, taking his yadayim, which together yad and yad is gematria koach, and instead of it being hands that are below the intellect, hands that seem to be, quote unquote, in our control or under the control of nature, he lifts them above his head. He lifts them into a place that's beyond our intellect, reminding us that really all of the things that we're able to accomplish and all the things that we're able to experience are actually rooted in a realm that's beyond what we currently experience in this dream of a lifetime. And our experience in this world, he lifts them beyond his head. And the pasuk describing that says, "V'hi yadav Emunah ad bayashemesh." Moshe Rabbeinu's hands were faithful, and this is what it means to be able to lift our hands above our mind and to hold them up ad bayashemesh until sunrise, because the whole thing of Amalek is attacking us in the aspect of sleeping, in the aspect of falling asleep, into a subconscious perspective where we're disconnected from Emunah. Moshe Rabbeinu is lifting his hands above his head, which is the aspect of Emunah, v'hi yadav Emunah ad bayashemesh. And while Moshe Rabbeinu is doing that, the nation is battling Amalek in the valley. And when they look up, the Mishnah tells us Moshe Rabbeinu's hands are pointing them toward the heavens, enabling them to reconnect with Emunah, and that's the way that they're able to overcome the aspect of Amalek. And that's the aspect of the elevation of the hands that ordinarily when we're sleeping are accosted by this terrible impurity, the impurity of shena, of subconsciousness, of a lack of emunah that comes upon our hands when a person is asleep. So says Reb Nosson, now we can understand the concept of being able to get rid of this impurity, specifically when we are washing our hands. Because Reb Nosson says the whole thing of water is really rooted in the place of consciousness. That's what it's a symbol for. Because the pasuk says, Umala aretz deas Hashem kamayim li'amachasim, that in time to come, in the future world, in the future experience of this worldliness, the whole earth is going to be saturated with the knowledge of Hashem, which means Emunah, like water covers the floor of the ocean. The whole world is just going to be filled with the knowledge of God, kamayim li'amachasim, like water covers the ocean bed. And the incredible thing, again, here is that mayim is seen as a very specific symbol. V'shavta mayim b'sasa is seen as a symbol for the joy of living in a world that's connected to Emunah, living in a world that's not kar, living in a world that isn't cold, that isn't limited, living in a world where we can recognize that Everything is possible because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is real, and Hashem is creating nature, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu can choose to alter nature. And that's the consciousness of Tefillah, which the Targum Onkelos tells us about Moshe Rabbeinu's hands that we discussed a moment ago, which by Yadav Emunah, the Targum Onkelos says, Pirsan B'tzilai. His hands were spread in prayer, which is an incredible thing. We see that the highest expression of the Emunah consciousness is the ability to pray, to be able to say, I see that when I see that nature has its limitations, and currently this person is ill, and currently this is not working out, and currently this relationship is struggling, and that's al pi teva. But a person who lives with Emunah is able to daven. A person recognizes, I can lift my hands above my head. I can elevate this experience that I'm having in this worldliness to recognize that really it comes from a place that's completely beyond me. And in that place, a person who shaftem mayim b'sasayim, they're living with the joy of these waters, which are symbolic of umala aretz deas Hashem kamayim li'amachasim, of the way that the godliness will completely fill and saturate the earth like water covers the ocean. When a person's able to connect to that kind of water, when a person's able to have these, what Reb Nosson calls the meimei hadas, these waters of true intellect that are beyond our this worldly limited rationality, so then a person's able to battle Amalek, and a person is able to counteract the impure spirit that comes in our hands when we're sleeping, specifically by pouring upon them mayim, the meimei hadas, the water that flows from that elevated place, mimakom gavaya l'makom namuch, that water that's an echo of a realm that's completely beyond our realm. That a person who's connected to that is truly able to daven, truly able to lift their hands above and recognize that this world is full of Hashem's presence. And it's just, the question is not whether it's there, the question is whether our eyes are open to it.
אני הבן ואתה האב שלי שכל כך אוהב אותי האב שלי מלך חי וקיים על כל נשימה שאני